Forsaken is the type of Roblox game that has to be balanced. Through dozens of balance changes every update, adjustments are made to the 14 character roster to make sure that one doesn't dominate the meta, and carefully creating new characters to fit perfectly into the game without creating any issues. When all is said and all is done, I think that this game is made really well and no survivor is too dominant. But this doesn't mean that they don't outweigh each other in one aspect: annoyance. The difference your kill round could have based off of the setup of survivors you are set to kill offers great variety in Forsaken, and I think changes the game dramatically. So over the past month, I've scheduled community polls for you guys to vote on who you think is the most annoying survivor. Each survivor went up against each other at some time or another, and I've put all the results together to make this video right here. This is a ranking of all 10 survivors based on how they were voted from least annoying to most annoying, a complete community run video. I will also be implementing your comments into the video, so if you left a reply on one of the posts, you can end up seeing your name here. I will absolutely be doing more of these community run videos such as this in the future, so it would be greatly appreciated if you took some time to participate in videos like these. But anyways, this is the Forsaken survivor ranking from worst to best based off of pure annoyance, voted by the community. Enjoy the video. Yes, Taff got dead last in our ranking despite considering how much of a hassle the guy is to play against. Whether you think Taff is a good or a bad support, especially after the recent giant buffs, this placement is still crazy. While getting last, Taff did actually manage to beat one other survivor in a poll, Chance. Now, these bottom 4 spots in this list are actually extremely contradicting of each other when it comes to the votes adding up, but I'll explain that once I get to it. For now, it's important to know that Taff just barely beat Chance by a tight 54 to 46%. Taff's abilities are just like a watered down Builderman though. The tripwire is disturbing at best, giving a bit of slowness to the killer and complete detectability when activating it. These tripwires are easily cancelled by a simple swing however, though a competent Taff knows how to place them sneakingly enough where you most likely won't see them at all. Even being able to be placed at any length and up to 3 at once, Taff will usually pack them together, which requires an intended strategy of avoiding that general area unless you need to. John Doe and 1x both have good counters to Taff however, but in general, Taff being a disturbance is very situational. The trip mine on the other hand is actually useful in most scenarios though. Following a 0.4 second explosion time, this thing is both hard to cancel and usually hidden very well. When a trip mine goes off, the killer is inflicted by a disgusting 5 seconds of helpless, followed by a complete disorientation of your position. Both these abilities combined, along with the extreme stacking of pairing up with other survivors, Taff can hold his ground, and that's why I'm genuinely shocked by why this guy got pummeled in just about every single poll he was a part of. But it does seem some people thought differently from me here. This is exemplified through opinions such as, Taff is just a character I can completely ignore with zero consequences. All you need to do is M1 while running for effectively no lost time with any of his traps, and even tanking them just doesn't impact the game in a large way whatsoever. Taff's bomb and tripwires are personally very easy to spot to hit them and get them out of the way. Also because even though it may be annoying to get hit by a subspace or a trip mine, it doesn't really waste much of your time. A good Taff is annoying, but counterable. Yeah, I can see all these points. For a character who's meant to be able to cancel traps and significantly slow down the killer, just tapping the traps gone in most scenarios just doesn't exactly hold up well. It takes pretty long to set up a fortress that can be taken down immediately, serving as an extremely weak version of Builderman. Probably the best representation of what I'm saying here is from AidenLock707, saying that triggering Taff's traps is literally just, oh no, anyway, most of the time. Although Taff is not bad, he can be used pretty well. 2x Saken, who said that Taff's trip mines are just a minor inconvenience if he hit it before it explodes, and the same could be said for his tripwire. Peckhat, who said that Taff has nothing. Both of his abilities are completely shut down by just paying attention and hitting them. Yeah, this is basically true, but if I'm remembering correctly, some of these were written before the buff. Taff only gets one chance to set up all that he needs, and you'll be lucky that if the killer is oblivious enough not to see the tripwires and subspaces. After that, time will tell if Taff could single-handedly juke the killer and outlast the timer. Juking obviously entirely depends on the player, but I agree with this too. A really notable point I'd like to mention is from someperson7491, who claims that it would be so much better if the trip mine did like slowness 3 for 2 to 4 seconds depending on distance from the mine. That way, camping on top of a mine as Taff is slightly more punishing, but successfully hitting mines actually impacts the game, other than just a bit of camera sway and helpless. Sure, helpless is great against killers, but they can still follow you, which, yeah, that's true. Helpless is a pretty powerful status effect though, but I also do agree with this comment. Players are getting way better at simply overlooking the effects as mentioned, following you. Ram of Might said that Taff's traps are pretty annoying during multiplayer if you can't see them, but at the same time they are pretty easy to kill just because they don't have much to them. With Taff, you can adapt. It only takes a couple of killer rounds with a Taff as a survivor to learn how to detect subspace trip mines and tripwires. Tripwires are practically useless against the killer if he's a brain, and subspace trip mine has some good spots again, but any killer with a brain is not going to lose the chase to a subspace trip mine. Honestly, I'm not sure if adapt is the right word here. Taffs certainly aren't predictable by any means, but I've gotten bamboozled by some crazy tripline spots. Some people can make the most clever hiding spots. The comments I can most agree with are from CypherCats, who says that Taff's playstyle feels like it should be an annoying experience for the killer, but it really isn't that bad. Probably due to Taff having the decently high skill floor, so in most servers the tripwire and subspace trip mine placements that most Taffs use are pretty manageable. Taff is very easy to counter. Any competent killer would know that you can destroy tripwires and trip mines, and I've seen many killers just not break a chase even when getting hit. Yeah, this is basically the best way to describe the average killer experience against Taff. It's not nearly as a big deal as usual, it just isn't hard to break a chase after getting hit by half the traps. Taff is, in my opinion, a low commitment builderman. A lot more disposable traps that can do a lot if other survivors play around them, but they still have a lot less impact. As I've mentioned, Taff is very comparable to Builderman, and this is basically reflecting it at its best. Disposable is a well-used word here, as it's being so much less of a threat to Builderman. But we do have Taff defenders here too. Here are some opposing points to Taff getting so low on this list. From the Master of Leaf, if you've ever played against a really good Taff, it's miserable. Taff tripwires or trip mines not only can save his teammates, but wastes a huge amount of time if placed well. And Knight9225 claims that Taff can be so annoying and inconvenient to deal with if he actually hides his trap wells. Like, he is not hard to kill since he has no abilities and can be used in a chase. However, he is annoying to be in the same match with. Tripwires can sometimes force the killer to stop and hit the tripwire, and when the Taff knows that the subspace can hit their walls, so you can get subspaced without even seeing the mine. Or you could just move backwards and dodge it. Well, I don't know. I think assuming that you have survivors that are aware of a Taff on board, they will usually flock to his traps. Are they really a disturbance at all though? Half the killers could wipe out the traps with a single ability, and in general, it's almost always a waste of time to have to stop and break them individually. And usually it's your fault as killer for letting Taff to be able to place so much down to the point where it's a disturbance to you. From not legally a geologist, most killers I've played against have at least a day or two worth of playtime and continue to fall for traps. Yes, that's probably because they played after the Taff hype died down, but even some more experienced killers, like weeks on the game, I've tricked or at least delayed with mines. If nothing else, wires can provide a surefire way to slow them down ever so slightly depending on how long it takes them to break the wire, or even notice it at all. Same goes for the mine, especially if they don't want to risk getting subspaced. Smarter killers will smack it and get subspace 1/3, but I'd say unless there's already a Taff when you could join, you could definitely pull some trickery before they catch on. Unless you get targeted, but you know. Yeah, that last line is very notable. It's the same argument as Builderman, unless you get targeted. Personally, I would not focus on a Taff at first, as they will always fortify a tiny part of the map that will be a quick fix later in the round, but that's all for the quotes for Taffs. This guy didn't necessarily deserve last place, especially for a support who was literally meant to disturb the killer, but some poor ability design is what led Taff to be levels more underpowered than usually expected, and just barely beating a chance to get last place and being crowned as the least annoying survivor in Forsaken. Despite being notably one of the scarier survivors to face up against, Chance got dumped down to second to last, almost the least annoying survivor in Forsaken. Despite his possibility of extreme health, a long-range stun, and awareness of space around them, what makes Chance appear this low on the list? The guy only barely beat one survivor who appears later, placing him just the tiniest bit above Taff despite being beaten by him. Listen, I know the placements make no sense right now, but I'll explain it later. For now, how the hell did Chance get this insanely low? First off, from Black Cook, okay, what on earth is his name? Getting cancelled of all my abilities is basically impossible to avoid, and if they are good, you can't catch them with weakness and will probably have 100 plus health. Ability cancellation is very notable in Chance's case, yes, especially from such an extreme range, but it is really worth noting that this character's dodgy consistency in his moveset and how he needs to be dealt with swiftly. A lot of people have this exact mindset. Pekat says that Chance can't be ignored or easily countered, and you need to target him first before he can set up, or else he gets shut down your entire game plan with his stun, which is incredibly consistent, not counting the chance of misfire, and can be very heavy hitting due to the fact it can stun up to 4 seconds. From experience, if you do nothing about Chance in early game, it's gonna bite you back later. Skilled lobbies and skilled chances will take any opportunity to shoot you while you're chasing somebody. Chance is either annoying or really easy depending on if it's someone who knows how to do Chance and keeps a low potion, or someone who doesn't know how to ever stop gambling, because if they have enough poison for you, it's one shot. Playing against Chance is either a really grueling task or the most comedic experience ever. The chances I go against end up killing themselves. Yeah, this guy is insanely consistent, to the point where he shockingly gets second to last place on this ranking. The intended strategy to deal with him is to go for him soon and be extremely aware of your surroundings to dodge gunshots. Due to his lack of consistency, that's all it takes to make him get pummeled by the survivalists in support, and pretty low compared to the other sentinels. It is worth noting that he managed to sneak out a win against Dusakar, putting him at this point on the list, so there are still plenty of Chance defenders to go over real quick. Squizzard says that, I think people underestimate how dangerous Chance is. I'm main Chance, and in almost all of my games I have 115 plus health and my gun ready before the killer has even managed to half kill someone. And the issue with Chance is that if you're good at your shots, you could shoot from far enough distance from a well hidden place that you don't even get punished for misfires or blanks. Where he shines the most is preventing killers from using abilities. Corrupt Energy, Mass Infection, Walk Speed Override can all be cancelled with your gun, and it completely ruins your chase. From Squiddy, being able to have 130 HP and a stun that is long range is insane. But what if your gun explodes or it doesn't go off? He has a gun, he's not going to go up to you. Even if it doesn't go off, he still has enough range to run away from the killer, even in Last Man Standing. Adever12 says that if a Chance gets 3 stacks while camping at the edge of the map and has a free shot plus 120 HP, it's so hard to kill. This is a really good way to put it, honestly. Chance doesn't exactly get punished for his gun not going off well, unless the killer's really focused in on them. And killers strangely just never care about Chance. It's so strange, but there isn't much else to say for the guy. This somewhat shocking placement really sets the stage for how people interpret a character as annoying, so time to move on. Shedletsky takes 8th place, surprisingly already being the second sentinel on this list, beating both Taff and Chance, who are lower on this list once again. Shedletsky is basically the least amount to talk about on this list, as Shed was never known to be considerably annoying. All you need to do is be aware of Shedletsky and he won't be able to suddenly stun you or protect others too easily. The stun is really punishing, and the biggest downside is that you must full focus in on Shed after initially attacking due to his heal. Perhaps Kit says that, I feel like Shedletsky is arguably more annoying due to his healing ability. It makes it super high risk for you to lose them, because if you do, they may heal almost half their health back. It's a huge setback, and in the survivor's perspective is a lot more reliable compared to gambling for a stun or good health. Shedletsky is a survivor you're gonna have to want to finish after hitting him, because Chicken heals the progress you put on him. Resetting it back, Shed can work anywhere and everywhere, as long as he can time his ability right. As I basically said, Shed's heal is indirectly annoying for the fact that you basically must lock in on them after originally identifying where they are. Shedletskys are a bigger problem. Their stuns are quite long, and they can heal themselves if you much lose them for more than 2 seconds. Even if you manage to find them and attack them during their slow animation, the 15-second extra health they've received can make the difference between dying and surviving an additional M1. Shedletsky is usually predictable, but if they landed and you're not a John Doe, it's going to be harder to catch them because you will have to use a little more stamina to catch up to them, and they will most likely have more stamina than you. Before starting this section, yeah, these bottom 4 spots are definitely a bit messed up. Dusakar beat Shedletsky and Taff, but barely got beaten by Chance, who was beaten by Taff. Yeah, this whole scenario is very irrational, and I had to make these placements based on how close the polls were. But this is the only time in the list that the poll results don't add up, so don't worry about it from here on. So, Dusakar is the second support to appear on this list. With only 2 generally considered decent ranged abilities, they fit every checkbox to be considered annoying, though there were certainly some people against this idea. The thing about Dusakar, he's extremely vulnerable when shielding, and he has 0 moves to help him get away from the killer. Dusakar kit is made to hinder progress, not to mention that Dusakar can't use his ability on himself, which makes targeting easier. Duscar peaks during early to mid game, but is basically useless during last man standing. All of these basically exemplify the idea of Duscar being the most pure support character, having almost zero way to fend for himself and be by far the worst survivor for last man standing. With Duscar, you could just give them a look and they'll stop shielding, and you could probably shrug off their beam. And yeah, regarding the beam, it's like a few seconds of slowness from a really far range every now and then. I wouldn't say you could shrug it off, especially for how common a Duscar could send a plasma beam, but in general, I got a lot more comments on why Duscar is such a nuisance to play against, so let's take a look. From Kennedy Gaming YT 2919, having someone who's constantly protecting a survivor can waste a ton of time. Even if you try to attack the Duscar, they are usually pretty good at the game, considering the high skill level Duscar has. Hamster Boy says that if a survivor is at kill percent but then survive because of the force field, it is so annoying, and the slowness from the beam impacts the game since it's pretty spammable. Now, I get so mad when I'm close to killing someone and then I see a blue shield appear out of nowhere, and when I look around there's just a random Duscar camping at the weirdest spot ever. Also, Pekat says that Duscar is incredibly oppressive. Both of his abilities are very active and they put a roadblock in your chase, giving the survivor distance and a safety net. Along with this, he doesn't give himself weakness during his off time, so his only weakness is 10 less HP. And the reason Duscar is underestimated is because survivors don't know how to react when given a shield. But if a Duscar does know how to react into a shield, then the Duscar's support will be much more devastating in a chase. This is a very strong point. Getting shielded isn't the most common thing to happen during chases and such, and a big reason why Duscar could have been placed this relatively low is because people just don't take full advantage of an 8-second shield. In the grand scheme of things, an 8-second shield is devastatingly long if you time it correctly enough to escape as a support or a survivalist, or damage the killer as a sentinel. Honestly, if you get a good Duscar that knows shield spots and staying away, they can extend chases way too much. A good point from Eager Plains 341, who says, if you have a good Duscar, then he could be on the same level as Pro Elliot and Annoying with perfectly placed through wall beams and perfectly timed spawn protections, but more often than that, he gets hard focused quickly and has to evade the killer with skills that don't help him in the slightest unless in specific situations. Duscar is also notably one of the hardest survivors to master, notably to perfectly know when the best time to shield a survivor is. This ends up as a setback, as other survivors must be equally aware of how to handle the situation. Duscar is basically the definition of situational. This is also supported by Void and Leader 9263. Duscar is really situational. If he shields a survivor you're chasing from far away, you basically have an option to go for the shielded person, the Duscar, or another person. And Duscar is annoying if you ignore him because he will be constantly zapping you and shielding teammates. Not to mention that Duscar keeps his distance and a constant line of sight from the killer, running off the second you move towards him, thus making him annoying to chase since there's so much distance between you two. A different interpretation of these scenarios is from Cyphercats, who says that Duscar also directly influences the outcome of chases regardless of how good the person is you're chasing. A lot of the newer players won't play to the strengths of the sentries and dispensers, potentially not going near them at all, whereas Duscar can always shield beam the person you're attacking regardless of how new they are. And this right here explains why Duscar was placed at number 7. One last point I'd like to highlight is from the Legend 27, who claims that the thing with Duscar is that he pretty much needs to be far away so he isn't in very much danger, because he's very vulnerable when using his abilities, especially spawn protection because it gives him slowness. Also somewhat map dependent, as some maps have a better vantage point to fully utilize his shield. Map dependent. This character is unfortunately by far the most map dependent survivor in Forsaken. It's not even close. If this wasn't the case, I could see a pretty different outcome in the ranking. Alright, guess 1337, where do I even begin? Okay, first off, how did this guy place higher than Shiletsky? Sorry, I know this video isn't entirely about my opinion, but wow, I did not expect that. Anyways, as predicted, Guest absolutely pummeled the 4 survivors before this in the poll outcomes. Guest got way higher concentration of responses about how much of a nuisance he is, which honestly baffles me. I totally expected Guest to get bottom 3, but here we are. I'll highlight the only comments I gathered who spoke out against, being, sure, Guest has to charge to maintain distance and get resistance to the killer, but his stun remains useless until I hit a successful block. I usually just wait out until they block. Guests are either super pathetic or super skilled when I play against them, but either way, all you have to do is set up baits is to spam M1s and purposely hit nothing as to encourage them to use their block, and then win. And even if you hit a block, all you have to do is react quickly by running backwards and diagonally, assuming the player goes for a parry. And the most striking of the three is, Guests can't really do anything if you ignore him. I get it, Guest throws himself in between you and another survivor in an attempt to gain a punch, but does that really work? I don't know, I'm pretty confident that it isn't a viable strategy against an aware killer. But anyway, the amount of Guest hate I'm about to read off really did shock me. I expected the absolute opposite reaction, but Guest can block attacks, which is good unless the killer's instincts, can charge at a killer to stop them from attacking from a very short time, and can stun if he successfully blocked a killer attack. Guest is so annoying because chasing a guest always makes you think thrice about whether it's going to block you or not. The same goes for the punch ability. You have to play 5D chess with interdimensional time travel against a somewhat competent guest so they don't knock you into next tier. Don't even get me started when he hits you down a slope. Okay, fine, you got me. I hate the charge ability with such a passion. It is genuinely really annoying when in a close chase, sending you back several seconds, especially on a slope. Playing as a John Doe with a 7-year-long attack animation against 5 high-level guests on 180 ping was the most nightmarish experience I ever had in Forsaken. Yeah, that's pretty accurate. A generic user says that most guests don't even know how to use them properly, but once you meet a guest that throws himself in between you and the person you're saving, you can tell he knows what he's doing. Basically, if they take advantage of actually acting like a guest, yes, guests are annoying. A good guest can make chases difficult but can be ignored fairly easily and countered outright by 1x or John Doe. And Peckhat says that guest offers more for the team and has a pretty good charge ability, so he can really mess you up in a chase. Well, charges are brought up relatively often now. I've genuinely not had the issues with most guests' abilities more than others, but if you aren't in a situation where you can play it safe, a guest in his 115 HP can be at least a temporary roadblock. If you're a killer, specifically Jason, chasing down a survivor, your gushing wound would be a great way for the guest user to get his attack ability, resulting in the killer getting stunned by guest later in the round. And yes, this is definitely something notable that sucks about playing Jason. Guest is notably surprisingly killer dependent, as the difficulty difference between landing a block to a cool kid versus a John Doe is significant. But either way, guest beating Shedletsky by 2 spots still generally blows my mind, but time to move on. Noob, the master at last man standing and literally nothing else. As the first survivalist to appear on the list, literally almost every single line regarding Noob was either his uselessness in the regular game or how powerful he becomes in last man standing. First, let's look at the opposing point of view first. Noobs that I encounter tend to die easily due to either an ability use when I'm nearby, not understanding how Ghostburger works, or me killing them before the slate skid effects kick in. Noob is just a cheap 07 made for last man standing. Noobs are also often new players, like in their name, and they've limited chances to get away from you, and targeting them for a while can easily end them. I suppose based off of the votes here, Noob is considered the less annoying survivor to face in last man standing based off of poll answers here. Survivalists can only really thrive in these scenarios, and if we thought Guest was underpowered when it comes to helping others, survivalists are 6 levels lower in terms of uselessness on the team unless the killer, strangely, decides to focus on them early on. The survivalist role in general is always going to be underpowered in a way. The most a survivalist can do is help the team is to rely on their own looping to waste the killer's time, whereas a support or sentinel can actually disrupt your chase. Noob's only real counter comes in with his slate skin potion. Memorizing lengthen with the slate skin effect less can allow you to get a good punish, and this can lead to big damage attack like gashing wound or walk speed override, and it can also lead to your death on low HP. Despite this, Noob still has his Cola and Ghostburger, 2 very good abilities with viability if used correctly. Just in general, Noob isn't annoying unless you let him be by leaving him for last, but I suppose I could be proven wrong with the wave of noob haters coming up. Why are you guys ignoring the fact that you can't win LMS against a good Noob user? Noob is painful on LMS because of his speed, hiding his indicator, etc. And during normal gameplay because you just can't find him. Noob can deal a massive punch of damage of time management if left for last. Imagine that it's the last man standing. It's a noob, but you can't see the yellow light. You're gonna have to wait a whole 30 seconds just to find that noob, then they just use slate skin for the last 5 seconds of the round. Noob is more annoying because if you're going up against one that's actually good at the game, you're cooked. Noob just sits in the corner eating a ghost burger, and now I can't find him for half of LMS. And then I find him, he drinks blocks of cola, outruns me, and then he drinks slate skin and wins. LMS noobs can kill a perfect run, so that's why some people make sure to go after him after killing the last person. Noobs are nightmares for LMS because they usually collect Bloxicola early game. So they have 3 Bloxicolas in LMS, and don't even get me started on that Ghost Burger. If we're talking about noob mains, and not only the people that have just started the game, they are sure more annoying. Even if you prioritize them before LMS, could still be a big time waster. Okay. Noob players do their absolute best to solve themselves to LMS, and the annoyance stacks up quickly. Noob's abilities are designed in such a way to literally never be able to be completely caught if played near perfectly. These 3 abilities are essentially a counter to literally everything in the game one way or another. I do admit that if there were to be more extremely skilled noob players, playing as killer would be levels more miserable. The trade-off of not being able to help your team is being stupidly powerful when helping yourself. That's the catch with noob. This is well explained by the baked person, who says that noob is literally an 100% win if you know how to do stamina management and then you use your Bloxicolas. Plus, eating a Ghost Burger makes your aura invisible for LMS and the Slate Skin, making you have speed 2 for I think 1 to 2 seconds. If noob had a Bloxicola around the map picked up, I think you just say your prayers if they are experienced enough. Never let these guys for LMS, especially if they have higher levels. Noobs always have their items at hand unless they just use them, but you'll have to chase them to make them use their abilities most of the time, so that just wastes your time anyway. Or probably the best way to explain it. Are you slightly far? Bloxicola. You lost track of them because of cola? Ghost Burger. You finally found them and there's 10 seconds left? Slate Skin. Yep, I pretty much get it now. Noob fared really well in the polls too, pretty much soaring past every survivor placed below the spot. So following this trend, who was able to beat Noob? That's right, it wasn't even close. Elliot and his gigantic healing ability destroyed Noob and everyone before, and for a damn good reason too. I honestly am really surprised Elliot didn't get top 3, especially regarding the vicious comments arguing against him. Literally every single one here is for how much of a nuisance this character can be. Elliot can just heal and run around, and if they use Rush Hour correctly and focus on generators, they are a pain to catch up with. Elliot can see any survivor hit at 15 damage minimum and have his pizza's HP restoration be increased to 40 HP max if a generator puzzle is done. Heal any survivor at a distance and give himself an ability granting him speed boost of speed 3 after successfully healing a survivor. Pretty obvious stuff. When you're chasing any average survivor and an Elliot busts into the chase and ruins your progress in damaging the survivor, and even after you finish said survivor and your next target is Elliot, he just outruns you like the wind. Elliot is the only survivor that can reach speed 3, creating great distance between the killer and himself. Not to mention that all the other survivors will try to protect him as much as possible. God, don't even get me started with the Rush Hour ability. Elliot is such a pain to deal with in most scenarios as you cannot catch him for the life of you. Speed 3 is beyond diabolical. The insane range of the heal and the passive to see damaged survivors is just a recipe for an annoying survivor. This is pretty funny. My experience last night, teammate being chased, teammate low, Elliot arrives, Elliot throw pizza, teammate heals, killer chases Elliot, Elliot uses Rush Hour, Elliot runs, Elliot gone, teammate gone, killer confused, killer gets stabbed by 5 2 times, killer sad. Gotta love this game. People often underlook just how good the heal is. Not the fact that 40 HP is disgustingly high, but how far you could throw the pizza with its giant hitbox, making missing it not even punishing. It's literally lit up for any survivors who need health to attract them towards. I am Noob YT at a really good point, saying that a killer's most important advantages are their damage is permanent. Medkit is a finite source, so it's not a problem, but Elliot has infinite pizzas, so there's no way to spare some low HP to kill another one because Elliot is going to heal them anyway. Elliot could just get away while they are being chased and can make chases go on for even longer amount of time with the burst healing. Elliot, on the other hand, for me, is way harder to deal with since the pizza heals survivors, and that can be really annoying if the survivor is on low health, therefore also taking up more of your time. He's also pretty annoying to go against on his own because of his Rush Hour. Elliot only gets more annoying the more competent. You could chase somebody for 2 minutes, Elliot heals half their HP, you go for Elliot, immediately gets protected or runs with speed 3. Another strong point. Having a single Elliot in the game means you have to kill in one chase, damage doesn't carry over, guy can get healed mid-chase, you're never going to see that Elliot ever, so you can't do anything about it. It's so annoying when you've got a survivor to one hit and an Elliot swoops in and heals them and they escape. Playing against a good Elliot can completely reset your progress in a chase, and Elliot can be a very consistent character on good hands. Not to mention that Rush Hour is a very good survivalist ability in general. I still do think Elliot is the best survivor in Forsaken by a large margin too. The extremely swift healing ability paired with the only source of mobility for a support character is unbelievable. It is always good to have Elliot's on board during Forsaken games because it is so hard to punish an Elliot for how easy it is to gain a rush hour ability. Elliot is consistently a lifesaver in matches. When I lose HP, I often feel discouraged to keep trying to survive, but when I'm healed by an Elliot, it's so satisfying for both sides. Elliot can just come in, throw a pizza in the general direction the survivor is going, and leave with no consequence. And if the killer does try to go for the Elliot, they'll most likely have rush hour on hand to get away. Elliot is incredibly annoying with their consistent healing and their free to go getaway rush hour. Plus with the passive increased healing per puzzle completion will reduce the clock timer by a chunk. Oh, and one more thing. If the Elliot has a friend skin, assuming you have the Annihilation skin, you must keep them alive. Unwritten rule. Yeah, I can confidently say I don't know how Elliot didn't get like top 2, but I guess the polls speak for themselves because look at who got 3rd. Okay, what the hell is this? 07 got 3rd? I just see him as a noob but worse at an LMS performance. I feel like since starting this game, I've gotten tricked by an 07 like 3 times. Surely someone agrees with me, right? 07, only if they're talented. A lot of 07s just throw out clones for no reason instead of using them for survival. He's easy to counter if you know the game well, and memorize the spawns is pretty much makes his teleport useless. 007 is the worst character in the game, useful for nothing. I've never been tricked by one of those since it's so easy to tell when it's a clone and when it's not. 07 is only useful in LMS. Out of that, even 2-time pre-rework is more useful because he could at least revive. 07 is just as easy as finding him, not letting him teleport, and learning the spots where he uses to clone. Once you do, it's obvious and you won't fall for it as much, but don't let him be LMS, that never ends well. 07 is only effective at LMS. When it isn't LMS, the music stops for me as soon as the 07 sets out a clone, so it's easy to tell when I'm killer. And notably from Petcat, who says, N7 is deceptively easy to counter. If you are chasing an N7 and the chase music suddenly stops, they cloned. If they clone behind a wall and you don't know which direction they went, then stay on the other side of the wall and pressure N7 until he becomes detectable, and then use your detection. If he looks like a clone when you were approaching him, then wait a couple seconds and use your detection, and he is only a problem against Cool Kid who has no detections. Yeah, that's all I had to back up my points. 07 just isn't really an issue that often at all. I feel like there's just too many ways to tell if a clone isn't real, such as hit points, robotic movement, or chase music. But anyway, let's see what people have to say yet again. Smokey the Fox says that 07 is so annoying, especially if you're Cool Kid. And if you're not looking, a clone can throw you off, plus the teleport makes him annoying to deal with, especially in LMS. 07 can be really annoying in LMS if not used correctly. A good N7 makes LMS hell and needs to be addressed early. Yeah, I agree with that one. In my opinion, 07 is still the second best in LMS, being the other and higher survivalist on this list. I'm really put off by how much he pummeled Noob in the vote though, it wasn't even close. But honestly, outside of LMS, I don't bat an eye to an 07 at all. I don't even really get my time wasted during a chase. I think any survivor is extremely annoying in the right hands, but for me the worst one is probably N7. A good N7 player can mess up your game even if you're an experienced killer, and I don't even want to start about LMS. Yeah, I still think that's fair enough. 07 players who have mastered the cursor mode are actually insane, but there are so few of them, I just don't see it justifying a 3rd place spot. Oh, and there is one more thing.
Stop using the dummy skin. Okay, yeah, that spot is valid if the player is using the goddamn skin. I hate the dummy skin so
Now there's an understandable 2nd place. Wow, this dude is a menace and a half. My original prediction was going to be side to side with Elliot, but clearly that did not work out. But the point is, this dude sucks to play against. That turret makes me want to strangle something, and an unnoticed dispenser makes everyone healing up before I know it. And thankfully, you guys delivered your fire against Builderman. A Builderman with the right amount of game knowledge can really be an issue. They will always place a sentry by walls and you'll have to stop mid-chase to get rid of them, and if you don't want to deal with the slowness. If there are like 2 or more Builderman and they both know what they're doing, you are either taking the slowness or stopping to slash a sentry multiple times. Even if you go for one, or the other will back them up with turrets. Also, if you're on a map with elevation like Brandon works, you're cooked. They could place a sentry up at the elevation and loop you at the bottom. Also on glass houses in the building where you walk up the red stairs, if the Builderman places a sentry on that little elevated area you have to go around to destroy, you're cooked. If you destroy it well, then they're running to the other side of the map, and they'll probably have enough time to place another sentry, and that's when you have to deal with one Builderman. Builderman is annoying. He slows you down, it takes 2 M1 hits to kill a sentry, and he can heal low HP people by using dispensers. The most annoying part of Builderman is not his sentries, but the fact that if you don't deal with him, everyone's going to be at 100% HP. No, it's the sentries, but okay. Builderman, especially considering that he got indirectly buffed ever since the TAF release, where they can place subspaces on sentries. A competent Builderman knows where to place sentries. It will be so incredibly annoying to deal with. Yes, the Builderman TAF combo is a match made in heaven, especially considering TAF's recent gigantic buff. This combo is one of, if not the best 2 survivor combo in the game. Builderman for me is an easy to use survivor. He requires a bit of strategy for placing the sentry in the right place to aid other survivors, but besides that, he can build a healing dispenser to help the team. I rarely encounter a Builderman user in my turn to be killer, but I'm a Builderman main and I know how annoying this survivor can be. With Builderman, you have to walk up to the sentry while having slowness, which takes some time to destroy. This will give the survivor you're chasing enough time to get away, and this is even worse if the sentry is up to where you can't run up and get it easily. Plus, Builder can place his Healy thing down, so once they get away and find it, they can easily get back to full. You could one-shot the sentry with some abilities, but it's not really worth doing usually. He can make dispensers and sentries. He can make the dispenser in areas that are rarely passed, or worse, if the killer does not only target one survivor, the sentry is also very annoying, and we are forced to destroy the sentry, or the survivor will continue to pass through the sentry zone and we are slowed down. He works in every map. Yeah, this too. Builderman literally works in every map. While some spots are slightly better than others, all it truly takes is a sentry and a hiding spot to stall the killer out of every chase. I'm usually to the point of fuming when a survivor I'm chasing scurries to a sentry. John Doe has to use his entire spike ability directly to destroy it, and 1x has to waste projectiles. Terran X5 has a good point, saying that as someone who got Builderman to level 100 as my first survivor, people underestimate the sheer power he has if people actually play around his buildings. Sentries can force killers into a lose-lose situation where they have to either waste time breaking a disposable sentry or continue chase with constantly slowness too, which in most cases is impossible. Yeah, you have to deal with them. Builderman's stacking nerfs also hardly make a dent anyway, and the decent cooldown makes them so easy to place them over and over. Builderman is another story. He can put a turret in an impossible or hard to get spot and constantly juke you. You either chase the Builderman around the turret or destroy the turret, letting the Builderman escape in the process. It's a lose-lose for the killer. If you put your sentry in the most time-consuming place, then he can be way overpowered. That being said, in terms of annoying, I would have to go with Builderman because his sentry can end a chase. A notable point is from Oct262, who says, Builderman simply gives more value with supporting people in chases with his sentry and team sustain with his dispenser. It really depends on the scenario though. If you catch an unprepared Builderman or target him first, it's usually an easy kill, but I just don't see how a Builderman caught without a sentry beside him. He is far from being a support character with mobility per se like Elliot, but I find Builderman hard to kill sometimes purely because they are always camping near the sentry. Also, yes, Builderman is probably the most valuable survivor in the game next to Elliot. But yeah, this guy does nothing less than make my life so much harder. But of course, there is one more survivor left on this list. They don't even need an introduction. Everyone watching already knows who's about to come up, so here we go. Oh boy, good two-time players are more common. These mosquitoes won't stop stabbing me. Even with the nerf they gave him, he's still too OP. His weapons cooldown is a damn tragedy. And I know it doesn't stun unless it's a backstab, but that slowness and helpless sent me from being a pro John Doe player in the game. If they manage to backstab you, you get hit with a 4-second stun. That pesky second life, if they're able to get it, especially if they play life steal. Both front stab can be used because of the slowness and helplessness to regain stamina, and backstab can be used for more life steal. And if you target a 2-time mid or late game, you can respawn somewhere far if they manage to stab you enough, so you just front stab is weaker than their backstab, so you can still inflict helpless to you. Now, the most common mistake people state, including me in the first place, is that 2x health is weaker than most survivors. But considering that a good 2-time tried to get his bar full immediately, if you combine their first HP life with their second HP life, they have a whopping 120 HP. That is insane. And although John Doe's digital footprints, 2x backstabs are still a threat, since the 2x is an interesting one. They have a stun ability that acts like a life steal, lifesteal, their crouch ability gives them more stealth and allows them to ambush you when you're in a chase with the survivor who made the mistake of being in your sight, and the ritual makes them teleport to the set spawn point if they die with a filled oblation bar. If you notice a 2-time approaching you, make sure to make them regret sneaking up on being the wrong player. Imagine yourself going to a chase against a support of your choice, and then a 2-time comes out of nowhere and now you have to watch your back, just in case they try to backstab you, even if you don't know that you're going to suffer from an unnecessary slowness paired with the helpless debuff. Either way, you're losing a chase, and that's not where the problems end, because they can heal with their stabs and respawn to another corner of the map out of nowhere most of the time. I've lost a ton as Jason in 1x because the lobby just so happened to have 2-2-times in the same game. Okay, so 2-time is number 1 by a diabolical amount. Seriously, 2-time absolutely crushed 07. Hammer Deltarune into the ground, demolished Elliot like, oh my god, look at this. Jesus Christ, it was an actual sweep. But do we really need an introduction to why this survivor got first place by so far? The community spoke and nobody disagrees that 2-time is by far the most annoying survivor in Forsaken. Their entire gimmick and intended gameplay mechanic is to become undetectable, sneak up on you, dash into you from out of nowhere, inflict the longest stun of the game, heal up, and swiftly get away. Oh, you finally killed them? They actually respawned on the other side of the map. What else is there to say? Let the comments speak for themselves. Dearest 2-time, I'd love to inform you that you are banned from my formal gatherings for your obnoxious behavior and stabbing, which is really annoying. I hate you, from Pretty Princess. Anyway, 2-time, it's probably the most obvious choice. I mean, come on, their stun has half the cooldown time than Sheletsky's, not to mention it's almost instant. Going against multiple of these guys can become almost impossible, especially considering that each stab heals the 2-time, equaling out to more time spent looping, juking, and wasting your time. 2-time is a very annoying survivor because of his stun and his wonky hitbox. Also, his teleport when he revives himself is really annoying to play against. Plus, the crouch allows him to hide if you lose a direct line of sight of him, and if you're dealing with more than 2-2-times, then good luck, you'll need it. However, if you can kill a 2-time before they cause too much trouble, you're fine. Bro, 2-time is so annoying for last man standing. First of all, he spawns back where he placed his spawn point and gains 110 max health while also being healed 80. On top of this, he has his stunning / helpless ability that disables all killer attacks for a period of time. As soon as you show any weakness to 2-time, the whole pack is summoned. Seriously, they're like wolves. My boy went from a joke to a psychopath. The infuriating thing with 2-time is that if you're in a chase, they could run for the stab when you have low stamina, and since you have low stamina, it's not worth the swap to chasing them anyway. Oh guys, look, his back is turned. 2-time it does have that really quick stun, is automatically revived at the start of LMS with 110 health, but it's easy to kill off a 2-time at the beginning of rounds due to how little health they have. I genuinely think that 2-time rework has entirely invalidated the existence of Sheletsky, as not only do they both have similar stun durations, but unlike Sheletsky, who has to either maneuver himself around the map in front of the killer, if he is behind the killer initially, 2-time could just lunge himself on demand, get healed, and then have a get out of jail free card after it. Because Behead will get you to dagger range, activating Raging Pace lets 2-time react to it, and Gashing Wound might be your only solution. 2-time out of all stunners / sentinels is the only one I can think of makes you anxious. Anxious that they'll backstab you and gain the respawn to waste your time. Anxious when you're locked in on a target and you'll get stabbed in the back. 2-time makes you turn around and check your back. 2-time is literally like a random fire ant. It bites you, but it dies if you stomp on its head. 2-time doesn't really have any weaknesses because his cooldown is short, range is decent, stun is pretty good, and he can heal himself. 2-time on the other hand is always lurking in the shadows, waiting for you to slip up to backstab you and get that revive just to be annoying as a whole. Seriously, you could be chasing someone and then this guy just manifests behind you to backstab. Well, there is the tiniest amount of opinions against 2-time being voted so highly, but do they really sell? Peckhat bravely says that 2-time is incredibly weak in the early game because he doesn't have any meter, so he has to be incredibly ambitious in order to get some. This will eventually lead him to either overextending or landing a successful backstab, but you could counteract a backstab by looking behind you every once in a while during a chase. Newbie5687 also says that with 2-time, if they don't backstab you and it's the start of a round, they will most likely die if you chase them since it's their only self-defense option is gone, alongside having 80 HP. I do personally think that 2-time isn't overpowered or anything, but that ain't what this list is about. 2-time was voted as the most annoying survivor in Forsaken, and you betcha that's what people will agree with. But that is it for this beast of a video. Putting all of this together took several weeks, and it feels unbelievably satisfying to put it at rest. This one was a real challenge to make, and I really hope making community-based rankings is something you enjoyed. Please let me know in the comments if this was fun to either watch or participate in, and if I do it in the future, maybe you could appear on the screen. But that's all I got to say for today, so have a good day.